Today on the Blockchain Report, Trump says there's big progress in the Russia-Ukraine peace talks, which is adorable because Russia celebrated that progress by bombing Kharkiv. Washington finally admitted Musk's federal agency Doge no longer exists, meaning the government literally rugged its own department before the altcoin crowd could. And scientists just grew bacon without killing the pig, proving the future is here. It's weird and it tastes morally superior. All that and more right now on today's show. Let's go. Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday, and welcome to the Blockchain Report. We're here for another week of world news madness, and we're thanking you for joining us today. So let's get into the thick of it. We got a lot to talk about. It's the start of the new week, and we got some news stories on tap right now. So let's roll the stinger for this morning's bull run and get on into it. First up, President Donald Trump is now cautiously hyping progress in the U.S.-led Ukraine-Russia peace talks. Trump posted that, quote, something good just may be happening in negotiations, though he immediately undercut that optimism by telling people not to believe anything until they literally see signatures on paper, which, to be fair, is a pretty reasonable stance given the historical track record of Vladimir Putin, international diplomacy, and any peace plan with more than 3 bullet points. Now, behind all the social media fog, the actual situation is pretty complicated. Russia carried out a drone attack on Kharkiv overnight that killed 4 Ukrainians, which is a harsh reminder that even as negotiations inch forward, the war has absolutely not slowed down in any meaningful, emotional, or humanitarian sense. Trump, however, has publicly set a Thanksgiving Day deadline, a bold choice for a holiday better suited for awkward family arguments and not high-stakes geopolitical arm twisting. Meanwhile, both U.S. and Ukrainian officials say progress has been made, but the 28-point plan is nowhere near done. The peace plan itself is already drawing massive political scrutiny because it asks Ukraine to give up territory, limit its military, and abandon the idea of joining NATO in exchange for security guarantees and reconstruction money. Russia, on the other hand, gives up far less and even receives blanket post-war amnesty. Now, meanwhile, U.S. lawmakers are pushing alternative measures, including a sanctions package with a 500% tariff on countries purchasing Russian oil or uranium, along with penalties if Russia refuses to negotiate or launches another invasion. That package could get a vote as early as next week. So while Trump hints something good may be happening, the political world is reacting like someone handed them a mystery casserole at a potluck, hopeful but deeply suspicious, and waiting to see whether it's going to be edible or explode. And joining us to talk about this story and many more this morning during our bull run, we have one of our favorite friends of the program, Stephen Big Beat Orr, joining us this morning. Stephen, happy Monday. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good. Look at Bitcoin, man, running 88,500. So I'm pretty happy right now. Yep.
Yeah, I think we are ushering in a lot of things to be thankful for on this important week here in the good old US of A. But right now we're talking about this Ukraine-Russia peace talk. Stephen, when you look at President Donald Trump hyping up big progress in a Russia-Ukraine peace deal while drones are still hitting cities like Kharkiv, how do you know that, or how do you process that like contradiction? Is this normal geopolitical noise, or is this actually meaningful? What do you think?
It reminds me of the former comments from former presidents saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. But in Russia's case, Vladimir Putin, he proposed a 28-point, and I think you just talked about a second ago, 28-point plan, of which they walked that down to 19. So, 9 things coming off of that plan. Ukraine having to give up some territory, which is what would make Putin happy. It's what he wanted. Putin making at the very beginning of this 3 years ago, saying that the reason that he did this was Jewish reasons, and he said that there was Nazism going on in Ukraine. And the truth of the matter is, he wants the ports, right? He wants those special places that are out there. And I'll tell you a couple of things that I'm looking forward to this because why? The death toll that we've seen so far, I think the numbers were something like over 50,000 killed and over 400,000 wounded. I mean, that's just absolutely asinine, just on the Ukrainian side. That's not even on the Russian side, which is I think
Right.
I hear it's worse than that. And you hear about Putin wanting to bring up more people and people trying to run out of the country. It's just not a good place for the whole area, right? Ukraine, von der Leyen,
Hmm.
she's now saying, look, let's try to find some peace. Let's get rid of this and move on. But when you move on, in order to move on, you got to give up, right? So somebody has to give up some things, and it looks like to me that Putin really doesn't want to give up anything. He feels like he's in the driver's seat. Zelensky is tired of this war. He feels like he's in the driver's seat because he's being able to keep up with this war. Hey, good for them. And the fighting has continued. But at some point, we got to stop. This could turn into World War III. And I know people are going to say, "Oh, it can't be World War III." Well, you know what? World War II and World War I was started on a whole lot less. So when I look at
Right.
Europe in general, Poland is very nervous about the Russian border. You're starting to see the buildup there. You're starting to see the buildup and take away from a little bit from Venezuela, right, where Russia has started to arm Venezuela a little bit with Maduro. Putin has got his nose in a lot of places, just like the United States has done in the past. The difference is he is backing it up with actual war. So anything that we can put Putin in
Hmm.
his place and stop the war mongering, the war fear, all the things that we don't want to hear about. Because why? Because it also affects the markets. It also affects people's lives. Things have changed over time, and especially in Ukraine, a lot of lives have changed over there. It's very sad. You know what? But the president of the United States needs to put up or shut up. Look, if you're going to do this, you're going to do it. All right, do it. But you know what? At some point, we got to stop Putin. If it means boots on the ground, I say send boots on the ground. Diplomacy hasn't worked. He has said things like that, and yet still, as you said, Kharkiv has been hit again. Drones from Ukraine has hit, deep into Moscow now as well. Look, has it hit the Kremlin yet? No, but I'm sure that Zelensky probably wants that. And so we need to
Hmm.
tone that all down a little bit. The rhetoric has gotten way out of whack, and the war fighting has got to stop. Build that, East and West Germany in World War II. That wall had to come down not but 28 years later, right? So I think in a lot of ways we need to see the rhetoric being toned down very quickly, and we need to see boots on the ground if they're not going to do that, we need to see Putin backing off a bit on not just on the Ukrainian side, but also in the Venezuelan side too as well. So there's a lot here. And it's not just a 19-point plan that Trump saying, "Oh, well, the good things are happening." I mean, we do not want to live every day based on what Trump tweets. I want to see, as you said earlier, put the pen to paper and let's see the plan and let's see both sides come to an agreement and let's get this done. I think the American people will see it, and it should help with the markets as well.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I think I remember Donald Trump before he got into office said he was going to fix this in like 24 hours, and here we are, almost a year later, and we're still waiting for some kind of resolution. But with that being said, it's a very precarious situation, especially when Putin seems to be willing to kind of Captain Jack Sparrow it and go down with the ship. It's either going to be his way or chaos. And this particular peace plan asks the Ukraine to give up territory and military power, while Russia seemingly gives up almost nothing. So, Stephen, from your decades in global markets, do lopsided deals like this ever actually hold up, or they usually end up falling apart?
No, they happen all the time. And to the victors go the spoils, right? I don't think that Putin's actually won it yet, but I think that Zelensky's just tired of the fighting now, and I think it's okay to give up some space on the planet, in this case. But no, lopsided deals happen almost every day, and based on war, right? And to the victor go the spoils. And look, the history of the world is not written by the losers; it's written by the winners. So in this case, we don't
Hmm.
really have a true winner in this case. But Putin, if he feels like he's the winner, then he wants to write that story. So yeah, in a lot of ways, that's going to happen. And let's see how that goes out. Now, listen, in his case, as you just said, Trump said during the campaign he can end the war in 24 hours. It's hard being the president. I mean, just listen. I worked for two of them.
Yeah.
I can tell you it's not easy, right? But let's get down to brass tacks. So if this is the plan that they're trying to put forward, then they need to come down. Both sides need to come to the table. I believe Marco Rubio is also pushing this plan as well, Secretary of State. And if that's the case, then we need to see the foreign minister of Russia also shaking hands. We need to see those photo ops and those smiles, and we call it the grip and grin in Washington. We need to see that in the social media and in the media world, because if we don't see that, then that doesn't give us the clarity that traders need in order to make decisions. Right now, it's still up in the air. We don't really know exactly what the plan completely has to say. And according to a few hours ago, both sides have made significant changes. So those significant changes, I want to see the actual wording in the actual document and see what they're actually saying and what they're actually going to do. Let's be honest, Ukraine is not a small country. It is the second largest country in Europe after Russia. So look, this is not some small war between two small countries. This is a big fight between a port. And look, every freaking war is about one thing: money. So what are they giving up? How much money are they giving up? How much land are they giving up? And the war now has gotten in seeping into families and unfortunately deaths and dismemberments, and we're seeing terrible sinful things like rape and really bad things that we should not be seeing but we are, because it is actually war. And I think people need to understand that we're actually living in a war. So let's stop this nonsense, get to the table and finish up this 19-point, document that came from 28 points. I think if we can get down to about 10 big ones, then I think we're getting closer. And I think something that Zelensky can swallow and Putin can call a win. And I think then they actually will start to feel better about the fighting ending. I'm really hoping. This is a terrible thing to even talk about. Hey, the fact that we're actually having discussed this is asinine to me. But this is what the world is. The geopolitical issues that are around the world. I mean, this is what's happening. So yeah, we need to understand the war.
Yeah, I mean, going on, I think, almost 4 years now. I think we're all really ready for a resolution to this. And that's easy for me to say over here, safe in America, when there's real fighting going on in other parts of the world. Now, with that being said, Trump, set this Thanksgiving deadline for peace. So my question, Stephen, is, does putting a holiday on the calendar, like with a deadline like this, actually help force action? Or does it maybe just add some unnecessary pressure to what's already a really fragile situation?
It's silly, because Thanksgiving is only a U.S. holiday, right? This is a geopolitical issue that includes two countries that don't they don't care, right? That's an arbitrary number that's used for us. So when I look at holidays, then let's look at bigger holidays. So if Trump is saying this, if POTUS is saying this, set a deadline of a holiday that's understandable by the world, right? Whether that's and if Putin is saying that he's worried about Nazism, then don't make it a Jewish holiday issue. Don't make it a Hanukkah. Then make a Christian holiday. It's holidays and religion, and no, it's an arbitrary date, an arbitrary time frame that doesn't really affect. If you're going to set the date, set it based on a timeline that both sides have come to an agreement with, meaning Zelensky and Putin. Okay, those two sides going to say, all right, you know what? How about December 7th, December 8th? Why is it December 7th or 8th? Is it because of World War II? Is that a date that will live in infamy when we got attacked? They don't care. That's not their date. Or do we do it based on their dates, their holidays? No, it's silliness. Just get it over with. Just stop the nonsense, stop the fighting, and make the arbitrary date 4 days from now, 5 days, that both sides and then people that are coming to the table and saying, look, all right, Mr. Presidents, three countries, Zelensky, Trump, and Putin. All right, you all three think you have a pretty close to a deal. All right, here's the deal. Let's make a closing date on the 7th of December, whatever it is, and let's make that the date, not based on a holiday. That's just nonsense.
Yeah, I think Trump just wants his head cleared during his Thanksgiving turkey photo ops, so that's maybe why he put that date. But they don't care about Thanksgiving. That's our
Go pardon this turkey and get it done with. Go, whoever the turkey's going to pardon, just get it done with. Right? That's a nonsense. Yeah.
It is. It is. All right, we're going to move on to the next story here, Big Beat. So hang tight, because Japan's new defense minister, Shinjiro Koizumi, took a weekend trip to the tiny island of Yonaguni, which is so close to Taiwan you can practically feel the geopolitical anxiety in the air, and announced that, yes, the plan to deploy missiles there is in fact happening. Now, Japan's whole southern island chain has been quietly transforming into a security perimeter over the last few years, adding radar stations, anti-missile units, electronic warfare teams, and enough military infrastructure to make the Ryukyu Islands feel like the world's longest aircraft carrier. So now Yonaguni, which normally cares more about scuba diving, fishing, and not being part of World War III, is preparing to host missiles designed to hit targets up to 30 miles away. China is calling the deployment extremely dangerous, deliberate, and essentially accusing Japan of stirring the pot, which is interesting considering China routinely flies warplanes through Taiwan's airspace. Now, all this has investors jittery, tech stocks wobbling, and the yen doing interpretive dance in the currency markets, and the defense stocks quietly warming up like, hey guys, it's been a while. But one thing is clear, Tokyo is watching China. China is watching Tokyo, the US is watching both, and Taiwan is watching everyone. Bringing Big Beat back. Big Beat. Japan says putting missiles on Yonaguni will lower the chance of an attack, while China says it will cause one. From your geopolitical lens, which side sounds closer to reality right now?
You know, it's interesting. The China's foreign minister said something that is pertains to something we don't normally hear. He said that Japan crossed a red line. Those actual words that he used sets a definitive. We know that Taiwan has always been a political football in that area, right? And China constantly badgers Taiwan because they want to own and next to Taiwan, and they believe that it's their island. And the United States has always been a protectorate of Taiwan, at least in the last 34 years. As we look to the future, Japan has set their protection area, and they're saying, look, China, back off, because we also are protecting of Taiwan, and we have a great relationship with the United States of America. So China is saying to the rest of the world, even to Japan and to Taiwan, you've crossed a red line. Is that a shot across the bow at the president of the United States? The answer is probably yes, and I think so too. And and Japan's new prime minister, she's not taking any nonsense. She is a serious contender. She is really changing the tone there in Japan. I really like her. I really like this new tone that Japan has taken. And I'll tell you, the U.S. dollar to the yen right now is at 157.5. That's the highest it's been in months now, as this dollar is continually to take over, and the yen is a weakening. A lot of sushi and sake for those of you who want to go to hang out in Japan for a while. But you have now got a new verbatim of what the line is. And when he said red line, he's also referring to China being red China. So those words are not lost in the meaning to diplomats in the United States. They're not lost to the diplomats in Japan, and they're sure as hell not lost to the Taiwanese diplomats as well. Now, if you want to think about the next level of this and how China walks it back, then you're going to have to see Japan walking back their rhetoric, saying, we're going to put weapons on the border that can hit you. Taiwan is massing troops. Japan is amassing troops. China has already put those troops there. So when I look at the whole, in this case, Japan, Sea of Japan, and that the Indian Ocean area too as well on the sides, where does the United States fit in all of this? As we call it the Fifth Fleet diplomacy, guess what? Our Fifth Fleet started not to be there, right? They're sitting in Japan, off the coast of where? Venezuela, right? Of which Russia is going to get involved. How does Russia get involved in all of this as a neighbor to China? How does Russia get involved? What are they going to say? Are they going to fight another war again, another theater? So the geopolitical is not just what's happening in Japan or Ukraine. It's becoming a melting pot of several geopoliticals at one time. And I think that's why you're starting to see the BRICS starting to come together a little tighter than they had in the past. And we talk about it from that perspective of natural gas in Europe, right? So if Russia gets involved, then all of a sudden you turn the spigot off of natural gas. We're going in the winter. Japan, do they get upset? Does China get upset with Russia because of Europe? Because Europe's one of the biggest buyers of Chinese products. This morning, Xi Jinping
Hmm.
said that the United States and China are now on a good momentum to the upside of relationships. So where do we all fit in this? I think that we're throwing wrenches, monkey wrenches into a geopolitical that doesn't need to be there. But I tell you one thing, I do think in the next 3 months we will see a different world in that area, meaning that we will
Hmm.
see a Taiwan that might be getting out of their problems. We might be seeing a China that says, okay, you know what, we'll back off a little bit. Japan, you back off a little bit, buy our products. Chinese
Yeah.
people go to Japan for vacation. Vacation goes to Hong Kong. Japan goes to Hong Kong for vacation. And I know that's not mainland. I know
Yeah.
that's off the coast. But listen, there's not a reason to be deploying missiles other than the fact that they kind of think that they need to. So if we tamp down the
Right.
rhetoric in that area too, tamp down the rhetoric in Ukraine and Russia, all of a sudden the temperature in the United States that we think of here over there will also lower, and we can get back to the business of running the country. We can get back to the business of Japan
Hmm.
running their country and China can run their country. So you know what? I think that the rhetoric is just a bit too high right now.
Hmm. Yeah, no, the geopolitical web that we've seen woven right now is incredibly complex. It kind of feels like in this situation, I believe the term is Mexican standoff, where everybody has a gun pointed at everybody else, but we're just waiting for that to be solved by like, hey, let's just get the tourism thing and everybody will put them down at the same
Just give
time.
them all
Because right now,
tequila, Hank.
China's
I tell you what, just give them all
right.
tequila
Tequila.
and some cologne
Yeah.
and something better to look at, maybe a better magazines. And I think just God, just drop. You know, I heard the other day where Trump has decided he's going to just drop leaflets on Maduro on his birthday. All right, great. Why don't you just drop $100 bills on them? And it's probably cheaper than all the things that we're doing right now. Look, there's a better
Right.
way of doing things, right? And what's happening is this saber rattling that's happening around the world. It just feels like it's like social media. Right? I feel like it's the Kim Kardashian of the
Hmm.
world. They got to throw up something and say something silly in order to get their name out there. And guess what? Nothing happens at all. They all back off eventually, and nothing happens. But in Putin's case, he actually
Hmm.
did go and attack Ukraine. He attacked Ukraine. Okay, I think he said, well,
Yeah.
that they provoked it. Bullshit. He did it, right? So when you look at Japan,
Yeah.
right? They didn't provoke this. They're just saying, look, back off of Taiwan. So if we really want to get down to brass tacks, just lower the temperature, lower the rhetoric, and I think a lot of it will just go away on its own.
Yeah, no, I think we're all certainly hoping that's the case. But that's actually a great point for us to move on to our next story. Because speaking of leaving things alone, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE as we know it, no longer exists. That was the line from the U.S. official who was asked about the status of the Department of Government Efficiency, the Musk-led agency created on Trump's first day in office. Now, the agency was supposed to run until July of next year, but reports show it quietly dissolved 8 months early following a storm of controversy, infighting, and an online feud between Trump and Musk that made the whole thing look like a very expensive episode of Succession. Now, DOGE agents reportedly slept in their headquarters, refused to identify themselves, cut budgets without warning, and laid off more than 200,000 federal workers. Now, the agency claimed these moves saved billions, though experts couldn't verify anything due to the lack of public transparency. By summer, staffers were reportedly packing their bags, and by fall, Musk had left Washington. The Office of Personnel Management has now taken over many of DOGE's responsibilities. The most public shift, Airbnb co-founder Joe Gebbia, who Trump assigned to beautify government websites. That's right, the guy who designed the interface you use to book a questionable loft in Portland is now redesigning federal landing pages. But politics aside, this is one of those rare stories where nobody fully agrees on what DOGE did, how much it saved, or whether it even really functioned. Bringing Stephen back. Stephen, we've seen government agencies slow walk things before, but we've almost never seen one evaporate with the OPM literally saying that it doesn't exist. How unusual is this in your experience with federal structures? Because this seems like an odd one.
This is about as odd as it gets. And we've said this.
Yeah.
The president said, I will cut spending by billions very quickly from day one. That's not how the government
Hmm.
works. And we knew that. I did like the fact of DOGE. I thought it was a great idea. There is a lot of waste. Trust me, I've seen a lot of waste in the government. But that wasn't the way. You don't go in with a hatchet. You go in there and you try to understand what the thing does that you're trying to pull away from it. One of the things they're trying to pull away was FEMA. Like hurricanes happen, Mr. President. Fires happen. We
Yeah.
know that. Flooding happens. People die and they need help. Well, you had a FEMA director who didn't even go to his own state when they had flooding. So there's a problem
Yeah.
there, right? When you're trying to cut and I love efficiency, right? I think that's what AI does and helps with, and I love efficiency, and let's make the government more efficient. But you don't disband the whole government because of it. You don't disband Department of Education because you're going to try to help. It doesn't work, right? Tariffs don't work. These things just don't work. We know that. But when you make these cuts, you don't do it in a way where Doge has to look in your social security numbers. You don't do it where they want access to every single thing on the planet. There's a reason why we have security on this planet. And we were giving these 20-year-old kids access to things that they shouldn't be giving access to. And all of a sudden it all fell apart. And then the guy that says he's going to fix it all then just leaves because he has a spat with the president. I mean, come on. This is not normal
Yeah.
behavior in humanity, much less normal behavior in the government. So let's get back to
Yeah.
the basics. And you know what Trump should be doing? What he's doing now, right? Being presidential. You know what
Right.
Elon Musk should be doing? Running freaking his company, right? He should be running
Yeah.
Tesla. He should be running SpaceX. He does a pretty good job at that. So, trying to run a business as the government, the government's job is to do one thing, is to get the money in and to spend it all, not to keep any of it, pay off the bills. I mean, it's real simple. It's in the Constitution, right? It's real simple what Congress is supposed to do. The Congress is the purse strings, and the president's supposed to propose, and Congress proposes. I mean, I went to college. I went to university twice, right? Got my degrees. I understand. I know what this is about. But when you talk about how to be more efficient in the government, efficiency should start not from one single agency. It should happen within the agencies that want to do it for themselves. You said it itself,
Right.
OPM, right? Office of Personnel Management. Start there, right? OPM,
Yeah.
hire smarter people. Don't base it based on religion or politics or color of their skin. Base it on based on the knowledge. Are they the best person for that position? If you're going to make the department, State Department, more efficient, great. Don't cut the budget for travel. We want people going to other countries and diplomacy and handshaking. We want them to do that. Have those parties they normally do. You want to cut budgets? Cut the Department of Defense. That budgets are way out of whack, right? We renamed it Department of War. What? The idea is diplomacy. We don't want war, right? So if you want to talk about government in general, you want to have a more efficient, then implement the software that we are actually creating. Go get the Sam Altmans of the world and help them build it. Don't get the 20-year-old kid who has no idea how the government works. Have the Sam Altmans of the world actually talk to and not overrule the people that are there. The number of people that quit their jobs are the ones who should be running those positions, running those divisions of the government. Now they're gone.
Right.
Right? Oh, well, that's the swamp of DC. Stop it. There's no swamp in DC. Some of those people that work in Washington are some of the smartest people I've ever met. And I know I was there. Right? I understand.
Yeah.
Man, there was a lot of intelligent people that worked in DC. Yes, I know there's a lot of people that can't wait to their lunch hour and they can't wait to get off of work. And they think 9 to 5 is an actual number. It's not. And most people are there to actually do better for the government. So when I hear that this is a swampy thing, no, it's not. So stop that nonsense. And the president is I think he's doing the right thing. I think he's trying to make it more efficient. But you can't just cut people from there. When you cut people from TSA, you cut people from, that are landing planes. You cut people from actual police departments. It doesn't work. And if you're going to,
No.
I mean, the United States of America, before we became the United States of America, we didn't want our own government policing ourselves. So why are there these troops going into these cities, right? We actually wrote a freaking constitution that this wouldn't happen. It is happening, right? Domestic. My goodness gracious, it shouldn't be happening. How much money have we wasted on that, on deportation? A majority of people now that are being deported actually have green cards, and they're not it's not a crime wave anymore. It's kind of silly. So if you're talking
Right.
about Doge, Doge being disbanded, I don't know that I agree with that either, right? I like the idea, but do it in the
Hmm.
right way. They just went gung ho and it didn't. But I think every department should have a Doge, a single-handedly an
Hmm.
efficiency department within the department so that they become more efficient.
Yeah.
When I was a State Department, that's what I did. I helped become more efficient, and we did that through computers, and we did that through software, and we became a lot more efficient. That's how you should do it. Not this just cutting everybody out that knows how to run a department. It's not easy to run the government. Just ask every
No.
president of every country in the world. It's not just ours. It's arrogant of us to, yeah, I understand we have $38 trillion in the deficit. We got to cut that. Yeah, work on that. I mean, that's a
Hmm.
big problem. And if we did that, and we're not the police of the world, then we can actually do some of these things. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. Doge is an interesting one because at the first idea, kind of like you said, like we can all get behind the government could probably be more efficient and could save money and work a little better than it does. We can all get behind that, but it kind of reminds me of that vintage South Park episode. I don't know if you remember this one. It was about the underpants gnomes, and they had a three-step system. It was collect underpants, something happens, and then profit. And it kind of feels like their plan was, okay, we're going to make things more efficient. We're just going to and then it's like we're going to cut everything and then the government is suddenly better. But it doesn't necessarily work like that. And I think you're right. These are departments that need to be held within those departments. You can't just have Doge making cuts when they don't fully understand the lay of the land in these fully unique divisions. And I mean, they laid off over 200,000 workers with almost zero transparency. And Big Beat, when giant cuts like this happen and there's no clear data, what does that do to public trust and kind of the internal machinery of the government? It's certainly not a good look.
Dang you, Hank, you took the words out of my mouth. Exactly right. Public trust is the one thing that the United States government is literally in charge of. If the
Hmm.
United States citizens do not believe in their president, if the United States citizens do not believe in their Congress, and we now know the president has the lowest approval rating in modern history right now. We know Congress
Hmm.
it's even worse, right? If that's a problem. So you're
Yeah.
right. When we look at the government in general, we need to see that us as investors, us that are that's why crypto has done so well. Because the trust in the
Hmm.
US dollar, it actually says in the dollar, in God we trust. That's a
Right.
problem. Look, when we look at the greenback, we have to go, do I trust this thing to continue to grow? No. That's why you're seeing
Hmm.
crypto do so well, because they don't trust the government. I think if trust comes back in the government, I
Right.
think maybe crypto may even fall down a little bit, but that's not happening. So, yes, to promote the general welfare, that is in the preamble for a reason, right?
Yeah.
To promote the general welfare means no hungry people. It means educating people. It means putting people first and not last. It does not mean kicking
Hmm.
people out of the countries because they want a better life. When I look at the state
Right.
Statue of Liberty, it says, give me all of your masses. You're hungry, you're sick. It didn't say kick them out,
Hmm.
right? But if they're criminals, then kick them
Right.
out. But when you look at the overall general arching feel of Americans right now, they are not happy with our president and they're not happy with this Congress. They sent them there for
Yeah.
a reason. So, you know what? It's not look here, feel right, look stage left. It's none of that. Get back to the business of the people. Make sure that
Hmm.
there aren't hungry people in America. Work on that problem. Work on the problem of educating people and stop putting out nonsense about vaccines and nonsense about autism. Get back to the basics of what
Hmm.
humanity needs in this country. Right? It's not a political issue.
Hmm.
It shouldn't be, at least. It should be, it's a very basic question, right? I mean, we need to have a healthy,
Yeah.
healthy economy. And a healthy economy is with healthy people and educated. I want to live in a society that's educated. I want to live in a society that actually
Hmm.
understands what's really going on in the world. That's why I built Quasar markets to get rid of the noise. Right. So
Right.
when you ask these questions about Japan and China and the president and Doge, it all fits together. It's whether or not
Hmm.
that the average person is happy or not. There's actually a happiness index, and guess what? The United States does not fit in the top 50 out of 177
Crazy.
Finland, Sweden is happier than us, right? That's a
Yeah.
problem. And so you're right, Hank, when you talk about it from the perspective of clarity, when I talk about clarity, I have to say, I want to understand what the world's going on. But it's also a happiness issue. I want to be clear and happy. And I want to be able to, and this weekend I went boating, right? Because when I went on the boating this weekend, there weren't as many people out there. People are worried about the economy. They're worried about, I was at Best Buy and I did my channel checks. You're going to see something you haven't seen in a long time. I think you're going to see a very healthy holidays where people go back to see their families. We already know that it's the biggest travel day is Thanksgiving usually. This is going to be the biggest on the planet. So guess why they're going home to see their family? Because they aren't that happy, right? So that tells me everything I need to know, right? So yeah, let's get back to the basics of taking care of people.
Big B, you ever gonna run? Because I got a feeling the way you're talking, I'm gonna have to start calling you Thomas Paine because you just make too much common sense right now. This is the rhetoric I need in the world right now. So I appreciate you sharing with us. And we're gonna move on to our next thing. And speaking of people you can trust, I want to talk a little about Bitcoin here because markets heard this week maybe rate cuts and Bitcoin bounced back above that 86K mark after a really ugly week, riding a wave of optimism around a possible December rate cut. Barclays research suggests that Powell could still support a 25 basis point cut, even though Fed officials are basically in the group chat arguing about it. Now, with few economic reports left before December, Powell's tone may end up being the final decider. Right now, the CME FedWatch tool shows a 67% odds of a cut, a dramatic leap from earlier expectations. But not everyone is feeling the holiday cheer right now. Some Fed officials want to hold rates steady. Others want cuts, and a few are still undecided. It's the monetary policy version of group project hell. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also said the U.S. economy is not in a recession or an inflation spiral, reassuring markets that a rate cut wouldn't break anything. That calmed investors and helped Bitcoin bounce back. But then analyst Charlie Bilello stepped in and said the Fed shouldn't cut at all. He thinks they should actually raise rates by 50 basis points because inflation has been above target for years and asset prices are starting to look pretty frothy. If that seems like the kind of take designed to make everyone mad, well, you're not wrong. Bitcoin, meanwhile, gained momentum. It rebounded more than 8% from its dip and is now eyeing that 90 to 96K range if Powell gives even the slightest hint of easing next month. Bringing Big Beat back. Stephen, markets are acting like the Fed whispered maybe rate cuts and Bitcoin shot back above 86K. From your market warrior perspective, is this a genuine bounce or just classic pre-FMOC hopium?
Okay, so three things happen in this Bitcoin, the crypto route. We'll just call it the crypto route. We are not going through a crypto winter, so everybody can just take that off your top 10 bingos for this year, right? What happened is that a lot of the OGs took a profit off, right? You saw Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, whatever that dad is. He took some profit off and he's going to spend it. Good for him, right? Okay, some of these OGs took that off. Were they looking at, was it a rate cut? Or I don't know, but what's happening in the world? They don't care about that, right? Yes, there are some people that are saying a rate cut will help them in the markets. We got to be very careful and be careful what we wish for, because if we're going to wish for a rate cut, there's a reason why you want to see the rate cut, because you're trying to boost housing or trying to boost the ability to buy a car, all the things that go around that. But if we start to cut a lot, it's because the economy is that bad. So be careful what we wish for. Now, I know that a lot of the traders are looking at the CME FedWatch tool. All right. Don't stop thinking about that machine. Those of us who've been around, I don't know, all of a sudden it's a popular tool now. I don't know. 20 years ago when it was around, we did look at it because that was a real tool to look at. And now that everybody understands it, and now they don't really understand it again because it's not really working correctly the way it should. Why do I say that? Because 1 month ago, the chances of a rate cut was 91.7%. Then, based on a few Fed members who are going to cut anyway, started getting on the one thing that they probably shouldn't be doing. I heard from 4 federal governors over the last 3 weeks say something that I've never heard before. Okay, I want everybody to listen to this. They said, "I don't know." You don't know what? I don't know what's going on. Why the hell are you a Fed governor if you don't know what the hell is going on? Resign. I'm
Hmm.
sorry if that's how you feel. Mary Daly said, I don't really understand the markets. What? Why are
Yeah,
you saying
that's
that? If you
crazy.
don't understand, get the hell out, right? Now, last week it was a 42.4% chance of a rate cut, and one day ago it was 71%. Today it's 79%. Well, we went from 91 to 79 in less than 4 weeks, right? They don't know. And
Hmm.
guess what? They're going to cut anyway. A lot of those jobs are on the hot seat anyway. So we know that Powell is gone in a few months anyway. We know the new governor's coming in, like Marin just came in. And guess what? He's a Trump appointee and he's been calling for a 50 to 100 basis point cut. So we know they're going to cut.
Hmm.
All right. So if that's the case, if all that's happening, we know there's going to be a cut. But I'm going to tell people out there, be very, very careful what you wish for. I'm calling for a cut. We need a cut. We
Hmm.
need to lower rates to get people back to spending. We need a cut, not because of push the Bitcoin price up, but to give people the ability to buy a home lower. 25 basis points is not going to change the world. The last 25 basis
Hmm.
points didn't even really affect the markets. In fact, the 10-year right now is at 4.033 right now. So it really didn't affect anything. We know that a rate cut's coming here in December. Probably be one in January. We don't know about February yet, as we know. But here's what I'm really concerned about, Hank. If people are continually clamoring for this rate cut, and we have an intermeeting meeting, meaning that they cut between the meetings, that's a real
Hmm.
problem. That means there's something really bad in the economy
Oh.
that the governors who don't know what's going on all of a sudden figured out. Now, I understand why some of them are saying that because guess what? They've been saying that we are data dependent. All right, what data are you dependent on? Jobs. Well, there's been no jobs data. The big one we had was about August. We haven't really seen the September one yet.
Yeah.
Was October, November. Guess what? We got 2 months since then. So is there going to be this? We saw a jump in the numbers, but that was based in August. So what is the probability of a rate cut? What are we having one? The answer is yes. For those of you who don't want it, yes, we're having a rate cut, 25 basis points. Okay, so get that. And guess what? The
Hmm.
markets have already priced that in. What they haven't priced in is an intermediate cut. I don't think there's going to be one. All right, I'll get that out of the way
Hmm.
right now for everybody out there thinking about it. But let's talk about it. If you really want
Yeah.
to invest in the markets based on a rate cut, you got to think about why. And look, there are certain companies that will do very well in a rate cut. Those are car companies, those are home companies. Home Depot will do well in a rate cut. But then there are some companies that won't do very well in a rate cut. Guess what? The banks won't do well in a rate
Mm.
cut, right? Because you put money in the
Yeah.
banks, and guess what? The banks have underfunded liabilities right now at the highest rate. Banks have a problem right now keeping money in margin rates at the banks right now. If you trade stocks based on margin, you've already got that cut already, right? And it may go down even further.
Mhm.
I'm already seeing that, and a lot of companies are already telling me that. So be careful what you wish for because you might get it.
Yeah, it's a little worrisome, It's like right now the Fed can't seemingly agree on anything and they just don't know, to your point. Someone cuts, someone hikes. How dangerous is it when the central bank sounds more confused than the investors? Like, this does not feel like very safe waters to be traversing in right now for anybody.
And let me tell you something. Here's what the central banks are doing. Not just our own central banks, but central banks around the world are buying gold. So if the world is so
Hmm.
great, why are they buying precious metals? Why are they
Right.
banking all kinds of precious metals, not just gold, but silver? Silver price right now. I think silver's going to go higher. I wrote an article today about silver. There's a reason why they're
Hmm.
they're banking on gold because they're hedging against their own economy. They don't think their own economy is good,
Right.
right? So there is a problem
Yeah.
here. And look, I don't think gold's the answer either, right? If people are stockpiling gold, the last time we stockpiled gold to protect ourselves against the depression, the U.S. government just banned gold certificates. So be very careful out there if you think you're just buying gold to protect yourself as a hedge. It's not going to work too well. I will say this much.
Hmm.
All right, the economy is in a funk, and one of our people that help us with understand the economy is Stephen Flanagan. He's the former head of J.P. Morgan's currency desk. He calls this the quantum convergence, and I agree with this. There is a turning of the whole world right now, whether that's geopolitical or whether that's what they're buying and how investors are investing. That's flipping over right now. It's kind of like in August, the dog days of August in the waters of in the ocean and in the bays, the water turns upside down. there's a washing of right now of crypto. There's a washing right now of
Hmm.
stocks, and we saw that happen in real time. But that convergence has happened now, I believe. I also believe capitulation has happened in the market, and that's why I've been a big buyer of stocks. I've been a buyer of crypto since Thursday of last week. So all of these geopolitical issues are starting to abate a bit. Yes, I know the rhetoric needs to be tamped down, and we just talked about that. But I think it's a
Hmm.
good time to buy those asset classes, and I have personally been buying myself. So yeah.
Yeah, you and me both, brother. It definitely seems like this is a time to load up because we both know I don't think this is the end of anything. It's really just the start of something else. So now might be a good buying opportunity for those out there that are paying attention. So we appreciate your words on that, Big Beat. And this next story might be our most delicious of the day. So hang 10. Big Beat will be back at the end in just a second because a startup has figured out how to harvest bacon from pigs without killing them, which is great news for animal lovers and very confusing news for anybody who thought biology worked in a straight line. Now, the company is called Mission Barns, and they are growing pork fat using cells taken from a live pig named Dawn. Yes, the pig has a name, and no, she is not on the menu. Here's how it works. They take a tiny sample of fatty tissue from Dawn. In the lab, they feed those cells plant-based sugars and proteins and vitamins. Then they grow the tissue in cultivators that mimic how fat develops inside a real pig. After about 2 weeks, the lab-grown fat gets blended with plant proteins to make products like sausages, meatballs, and of course, bacon. Early reviews say it tastes a little less intense than conventional pork, more like diet meat, but still good. The texture is described as springy, the bacon has a nice applewood smoke, and Dawn is still walking around living her best pig life. The company received FDA approval back in March, making it only the third firm in the United States cleared to sell lab-grown animal cells for human consumption. Right now, the price is still boutique, about $14 for 8 meatballs. Now, if Mission Barns can scale and license its bioreactors, your future BLT might come with a side of ethical relief. Bring him Steven back. Steven, lab-grown bacon from a pig named Dawn. This isn't exactly your typical macro story, but what does innovation like this say about where food and biotech are heading right now? Because this could be a good thing. I love pigs, but I also love eating them, so I'm kind of figuring out how to feel.
One of the first stories my mom and dad ever read to me as a kid was Charlotte's Web. So I'm glad that that pig lived too. Look, I get it. And I love bacon, boy. If you just don't love bacon, I don't know who you are. And look, even if you're a vegetarian, this is great for you. I just had to pull up the BYND, Beyond Meat stock price. At the beginning of that company was around $220 a share. Today, that stock price is
Yeah.
91 cents a share. Look,
Ooh.
I'm all for companies that want to build and create a world that saves animals. I am an animal lover. I'm a doggy myself,
Mhm.
and I've always had animals. I've always been that person, and I like this. It's a great idea, but unless it has the same taste, unless it has that same texture, I don't know that it's going to work too well. Look, I get it,
Yeah.
um, but people want to eat pork, and people want to eat bacon, and I love bacon. So
Yeah.
even your animal lovers will love this, and I like the idea. But look, man, $200 a share to 91 cents a share is a long way away. So I don't
Yeah.
know. You got to make it financially viable, but good for Dorothy the pig or Dana the pig or Ben the pig. I don't know what the name of the pig is. Don't care. Uh, but look, I get it, and the vegetarians and the PETA of the world love it, and I agree with the PETA. I'm not a PETA fan, but I do understand them. I don't want to see animals hurt in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I believe that. But at
Hmm.
the same time, unless that taste, unless that texture and that feel that we get from bacon is not as good as the real original thing, I don't think it's gonna be a winner just yet.
Yeah.
But I like the direction they're going, but I'm not a big fan just yet. Sorry.
Yeah, unless you are able to replicate it pretty much perfectly, I think this is going to be a tough sell for a lot of people. They already have turkey bacon out there, which kind of already feels like diet bacon. And while like it's passable, it's definitely not the same thing. And I love pigs; they're super smart. I love the movie Babe; they're like really smart dogs, pretty much. But this is going to be a tough sell for those real bacon lovers like you and I out there. It's going to be hard to beat the real thing.
I mean, I'm sure Dr.
Let's move on
Doolittle's
from this.
happy as
Go ahead.
heck right now.
Yeah, he's gonna have to listen to the screams of those poor pigs in the slaughterhouses. We got a few more minutes here with you, Big Beat, and I want to talk a little bit about the charts. We always love and appreciate your wisdom when looking at the charts and figuring out what's going on. So let's bring up the stinger really quick with Big Beat and then get into the numbers, guys. Let's do it. All right, Big Beat. So we've seen Bitcoin go as low as the low 80,000s in the last week or so, but today it's back up around 87. I think it might have even touched 88. What are you seeing happening right now when you look at the charts? What's going on, and what are you anticipating as we get close to entering the last month of 2025?
All right, so I'm gonna pull up some of my own charts here. If you guys, I'll send my request to you guys. But you're right, we hit 88.7 right here just a few seconds ago on Bitcoin. I do expect us to push forward here a little bit. And I'll just grab my charts here for those of you who are looking at the charts. I hope you guys can see this now and pull it up when you get a chance. Victor, my man. But look, we've talked about this over the last few days. I want to pull up a 1 hour chart. This is the 1 hour chart over the last few days. And you can see where my thought process was a few months ago, where I thought we would go back to the 116 handle there, and we didn't. And when that selling happened, it started to really pick up speed. And then that's when I was like, you know what? I'm backing off of all of my calls for that, because now we're hitting limit sales and things of that nature. Now, when I looked for capitulation, and those of us who look for the capitulation, it's one of those gut things you have to think about. Now, I've talked about this from a perspective of the 3 hour chart. That's what Wall Street looks at. And I've talked to you about it from the perspective of volume. So when I saw these big volumes come in the early part of October, I'm like, wait a minute, we got to back off of this big call here, because the volumes are no longer showing to the upside anymore. They were to the downside. You see all those big red spikes there on volume. We're not seeing that anymore. Now we're seeing lower volume and we're seeing green. So that means that we're going to no longer be elevator down, but escalator up, meaning a slower grind up. But we are going to grind back up and should get up back up here to 94,000 quickly here. If we can get to there, then we can easily get back to the 100,000 handle. And I think we're going to probably see that in the next couple of weeks. So I do like this. If we can get through this, then we get back into the channels that I was talking about, and then right back up to where Tom Lee was talking about. And these guys talking about 125, 130 again. So it is not out of the norm to actually run and actually catch some of these shorts with their pants down. And that's what I expect to see over the next few weeks. I see these shorts getting absolutely destroyed here over the next few weeks. Now I'm going to pull up a daily chart, and that's what I see. This is what I told you about capitulation. It's happened, and the buying is about to hit. On a daily chart, we're about to see capitulation really show its ugly head. See that big red line? That was a few days of capitulation, and I was like, look, that's it. And we're way out of the lines, and I drew that line. You can see I drew that line weeks ago and said, look, if we were to have a big sell-off, we're going to get to that line, and we did. So now I think we bounce back to this line, which is at 104,000, and that's where I think we'll see it. Where do I see it? Probably at the end of the year. But I will tell you, I might stick to that original thought process when you held my feet to the fire, and you said 135,000, and that's where I still think we might get back to. So don't be scared out there. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of this buying opportunity. You've seen it several times throughout the years, so why not now? Is crypto, why is crypto the scary place for people? When the markets are really high, they don't take advantage of it and sell, and when the markets are really down like this, they don't take advantage of it and buy. And that's when the institutional side of this, the people go, you know what, I'm taking advantage of it. Even the ones who sold and said they're taking advantage of it. Robert Kiyosaki said, you know what, even though I sold, this is a good time to buy. Tom Lee said, yeah, guess what, there's capitulation, time to buy. Guess what, Michael Saylor said, time to buy. So guess what? I'm buying too. Those guys are smarter than me, and you know what? I'm going to take advantage of their buying opportunity, and I will buy as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like an orange Christmas may very well still be in the works for us. But in order to get to maybe those highs we spoke of earlier in the year, maybe a 130, a 135, are we going to need to see something big happen on the macro side? Like, would we need to see the Ukraine war finally come to a halt? Could some bullish news like that then be reflected in the Bitcoin price as a lot of the chaos we've seen on the world spectrum settles down a little bit?
Yes and no. What's interesting in the overnight sessions, and I call the overnight sessions because I know 24/7, but I get it. But when we think about the overnight session,
Hmm.
Asia's buying and the United States is selling. So we got a problem on our
Mm,
side, right? Um, but well,
yeah.
I'll tell you what I do think. I do think this. I do think that people are looking at crypto in general and saying, well, is it's not quite the gold that we thought it was. And you've got the people like that in the gold world, like Peter Schiff, who are getting louder and louder and louder, and people are listening to that.
Hmm.
Ignore the noise, ignore the Peter Schiffs, ignore the Michael Saylors, and I like both those guys personally, by the way. Um, do it for yourself because we know Bitcoin is going higher down the road. So why, if you're a long-term investor,
Hmm.
buy those dips, BTFD.
Yeah,
Ignore the rest of it
that's
and
right.
do what you think is best for your portfolio. Don't do it because Michael Saylor is buying it. Don't do it because Tom Lee is buying it.
Hmm.
Doing it because it's better for you. Do you want to be left out in the new economy when it's all is crypto, when it is digital assets? Do you want to be left out in the cold when the U.S. dollar continues to fall down and it loses value, or do you want to be part of the new economy? And I think some of these
Right.
original gangsters out there that own Bitcoin, like myself at 75, but guess what? We all the profit, but I'm not selling. Why? I want to be a part of the
Mm-mm.
new economy. I don't want to be outnumbered here by the Michael Saylors of the world. And some of these original gangsters are giving you an opportunity. They're selling some of theirs so that you can actually buy. I don't want them to own. I don't want Michael Saylor to be the bank. I want I want
Right.
I want you to be the bank. I want people to be the bank. That's what crypto was built for. So yeah, I see the next level of this, and I'm a buyer of any dip here, and I think we do go back to 100,000 pretty quickly.
Yeah. And we have a
88,
lot of
88
people in our
7
audience.
now.
Rock and roll, baby. Of the rocket ships heating up, and Big B, we've got a lot of people in our audience that are looking to participate in this new global monetary order, and it's really hard, as you mentioned, to kind of separate the signal from the noise out there. But your platform, Quasar Markets, does just that, using a number of different AI machines to give you the most 360-degree view of what is currently happening and how that relates to the markets. For those in our audience that haven't had the opportunity to check it out yet, can you just give us a brief rundown of Quasar Markets and what you and the team do over there? Because it's really incredible.
Yeah, Quasar Markets, awesome. Look, one of the things that we wanted to build was I wanted to get rid of the noise, and I wanted to be the finance of the Amazon, the fintech world, right? And so, what if I could put all the good stuff around the world, like yourself, like RoxomTV, and put it into one freaking place, as opposed to having thousands of different
Hmm.
news sources? One place. So we did that, and we did it on an AI scale that's even bigger. Most AIs look at the past. I want to look at the future. I want to understand the future. And I got out of the stock market 2 weeks before it even happened, before the sell-off even happened. And I was screaming that because our AIs picked that up, where a lot of the AIs were looking at the past. The AIs are now saying, look, this capitulation has happened. It's a great time to buy. And I like that. So that's one of the things that I wanted to build in, and we did that. So guess what? I'm a buyer of almost every asset class here, and I'm a buyer especially of crypto. So I appreciate that. But quasarmarkets.com, that's where you can come catch the website.
Yeah, and based on what I've seen during our time together, you've been calling your shots like Babe Ruth all year with incredible accuracy. And I got a feeling it's very much because you have this resource where you can get the real info that's going on and ignore the noise. And Quasar Markets does just that. So really appreciative of you, Big Beat, always sharing your insights and knowledge with us and this incredible platform that you've created. So gang, if you haven't already, check them out at Quasar Markets. But Big Beat, I think our time is running short today, but as always, it is such a pleasure having you on the Blockchain Report, and I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving week with you and yours, my friend, and we'll see you next week.
As always, Hank, big love to you and to Roxom TV. What's exciting about Roxom on two levels. The first level is you guys have done and you executed what you said you were going to do, which was build a place for those of us who follow these markets, and especially the crypto world. That's number one. And number two is, look, you made it in a way that wasn't boring and it's fun to watch. And I think that those are very hard things to do. And you brought the real people that are actually building, and I really love that about Roxom TV. So I have the future of Roxom TV is I gotta wear shades because you guys are so exciting, and the future looks so bright. So Hank, I look forward to seeing you next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Big Beat. We'll see you next week, bud. All right, we're taking a quick break here at the Blockchain Report, but when we're back, more of today's top news. We're going to take a deeper dive into the charts, all the things that you're going to want to know to start your week right here as soon as we return after this quick break.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. And the Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. You can use it like any credit card. Buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee, and right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Just go to Gemini.com and learn more. All right, welcome back. It's time for more of today's Bull Run, where we go over the top stories of the day, and we still got a lot to talk about, so let's get back into it. Because in a plot twist that feels like someone mixed up the scripts for a political thriller and daytime soap, Marjorie Taylor Greene announced she is resigning from Congress, and Trump responded by saying she went bad. The breakup stems from Greene backing a bill that demanded the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Trump, well, he didn't like the bill. Greene says the backlash from Trump was a major factor in her resignation, which becomes official in January. She framed her departure as a mix of dignity, exhaustion, and wanting her district to avoid a brutal primary funded by the same president she spent years defending. Her actual wording, calling herself a battered wife who refuses to stay in a political relationship that keeps smacking her around. In an interview with NBC, Trump softened things slightly, saying Greene needs a little rest and that reconciling is theoretically possible. So now Greene steps away from Congress, her relationship with Trump in flames, and her party deeply split over the exit. Now this chapter ends the same way it began, with two people who used to be political soulmates now arguing over phone calls, poll numbers, and Epstein files like a divorced couple fighting over who forgot to put away the leftovers. And a new poll shows that most Americans would prefer billionaires spend less money on elections. According to a Washington Post poll, 58% of Americans say billionaires pouring cash into elections is bad for the country. 75% of Democrats dislike it, 60% of independents dislike it, and 42% of Republicans dislike it, while another 38% shrug and say that it's neither good nor bad. Now, among people who do hate billionaire spending, half say it's because billionaires buy influence, sway outcomes, and generally steer politics like a Tesla on autopilot. Another chunk say it's corrupt, unfair, disconnected from normal people, or eroding democracy. Now, when asked why billionaire money is problematic, respondents dropped phrases like selfishness, greed, and inequality, a real PR win for the ultra-rich heading into the holiday season. But here's the twist. Americans aren't totally sure how they feel about billionaires overall. Only 12% say billionaires have a positive impact on society, but 44% say the impact is mixed or neutral. And Republicans in particular tend to be more positive, often pointing to job creation and innovation. The only thing that everybody kind of agrees on, big money in elections makes most people feel like their vote matters slightly less than an expired Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. And how much has the Genius Act impacted the United States, you ask? Well, analyst Shanaka Anselm Pereira says the Genius Act didn't merely regulate stablecoins. He says it basically reorganized financial power inside the U.S. government by handing the Treasury a shiny new money machine. His argument is actually quite simple. Stablecoin issuers now must hold 100% reserves in cash or short-term treasuries. So each new stablecoin minted becomes an automatic buyer of government debt. Supporters call this plausible. Critics call it fan fiction for macro nerds. Now, Pereira also points to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's projection that stablecoins could balloon from 2 to 3.7 trillion by 2030, making issuers one of the largest buyers of United States debt. He sees this as a kind of privatized quantitative easing, operating totally outside the Federal Reserve's traditional playbook. Now, some people love that theory. Others think it has the structural integrity of wet cardboard. Critics quickly noted that the Genius Act doesn't require all reserves to be treasuries, since issuers can also hold cash and bank deposits, meaning the forced treasury buyer idea might be a little too Hollywood. Some also argue the real long-term game for the United States could involve accumulating Bitcoin and gold, not making stablecoins the Federal Reserve's awkward step-sibling. What's not up for debate is the significance of stablecoin regulation. It's become a pillar of U.S. financial strategy, whether the Treasury or the Fed likes the optics or not. And while people argue over whether this reshapes monetary power or barely scratches the surface, one thing here is for certain. Where the U.S. goes with stablecoins will impact dollar dominance, crypto liquidity, and the long-term runway for digital assets. And this is a fun one. The Trump Mobile T1 smartphone. You remember that one, right? The one proudly marketed as made in the USA and promised for an August release is now kind of a technological Bigfoot. People have heard the rumors, blurry images of it exist, and yet not a single verified sighting has been confirmed in the wild. You see, back in June, Trump's sons held an event at Trump Tower introducing the device with great fanfare. An American flag stamped smartphone with a brand new wireless service, patriotic messaging, and a $499 price point that required a $100 deposit to reserve. Now, NBC News even put money down to test the rollout, and while the credit card charge went through instantly, well, everything else has been an ongoing exercise in improvisation. No proactive updates, no shipping notices, no actual phones. And when NBC called customer support repeatedly across September, October, and November, the only consistent theme was inconsistency. Now, one representative confidently promised a November ship date, and when that came and went, the next rep moved delivery to early December, attributing the delay to the government shutdown, which, unless the phone was being hand-assembled by furloughed postal workers, is a fascinating excuse. Quiet edits to the Trump mobile site have also raised eyebrows. The original promise of a made in the USA smartphone have been replaced with much softer phrasing like brought to life in the USA and American proud design, whatever that means. Industry experts say building an actual US manufactured smartphone in such a short window is nearly impossible. So, while the promised Trump Mobile T1 remains eternally on the way, the company is currently selling refurbished iPhones and Samsung devices instead, both of which are not famously made in America, though apparently they are now brought to life in the USA, whatever, that means. All right, so we're taking a quick break here at the Blockchain Report, but when we're back, we're going to do some market talk, see what the numbers are telling us, and go over more of today's top news, of which you are not going to want to miss. So stay tuned. More Blockchain Report will be coming your way right after this quick message. All right, gang, welcome to this morning's market rundown. I want to talk a little bit about what Bitcoin is doing. Remember, last week we saw it down around the 80K level, but in just the last 24 to 36 hours, we have seen a surge back to around the 88.5, 88.6 level. So things are certainly on the upswing, but the question is why and what can we expect going forward? So what I'd like to do now is bring some charts into play where we'll break down the three major on-chain signals that just fired at the exact same time. And if you're a Bitcoin bull, these charts should feel like someone finally cracked a window open in a very sweaty room. So you're going to get some relief, and let's talk about it. So let's bring up our first chart here, guys, and get into it. This first one is the true market mean and AV/IV ratio indicator. Okay, it's basically Bitcoin's long-term fair value line. Think of it like Bitcoin's gravitational center, okay? It moves slowly, it rarely lies, and the bull markets tend to stay above it. Last week, we said the price had to hold this line unless the bulls wanted to start stress eating their hardware wallets. And guess what? Bitcoin bounced off it perfectly around the 81.8 thousand mark, okay? And you can see right there, my circle, that's what happened. There's the line, we've been hovering above it, we touched it, we saw an immediate bounce. This is exactly how prices behaved in the past bull cycles, including back in 2021, where the price dipped just a hair below before ripping back up. So right now, this bounce that we're seeing again right here is a huge sign the bull cycle structure is still very much intact, but bulls absolutely do not want to see this price come close multiple days below this line. that's when you start hearing the word trend reversal whispered like it's Voldemort or something. So that line right here, that's what we're watching. Okay, let's move on to our next chart here. This is the net realized profit loss chart. Now this one shows how much profit or loss investors are realizing every time coins move on chain. So green means that people are selling in profit. Red means they're panic dumping into losses. This metric has nailed every local top and bottom this cycle. Every time profits peak, they start making lower highs, and eventually the whole thing flips negative. And when it does, that final flush has marked bottoms over and over again. Well, guess what just happened? Bitcoin printed a massive $4.7 billion realized loss on November 21st, okay? That is a full-blown capitulation event, and you can see it right here. See that big red candle? Nasty stuff right there. Then what happened the very next day? Well, net realized profit snapped back with over $6 billion in realized gains. And we can see that on the chart here. Look, right there. Okay, that's exactly the type of reset we expect at the end of a local downtrend. Now, historically, this pattern signals a strong upward reversal. And if the cycle continues repeating itself, the bottom is already behind us, and we might have some smoother sailing going forward. So there's some exciting news there. Now, let's go to our last chart of the day. This is the short-term holder SOPR indicator, okay? One of the best live sentiment indicators in all of Bitcoin. Now, it measures whether short-term holders are selling at a profit or if they're selling at a loss. Anything below 1 means we're seeing some panic selling. Now, remember, here's the one line right across here. I don't do it a lot of justice with how straight it is, but you get the idea. So anything above that means they're back in the green, okay? But below it means we're panic selling. And what we're seeing right now is one of the deepest capitulation prints since back in 2018, okay? We're talking full-on panic, exhaustion, forced liquidations, the worst, okay? So what I'm gonna take a look at now is you can see most recently, this guy right here in the bottom right corner. This is the kind of washout we only see at major cycle bottoms. It's deeper than anything we saw in the last bear market. Not quite as bad as COVID, but in the same emotional zip code, if you will, all right? So this is the exact flush that we've been waiting on for months now. Historically, when the SOPR recovers after a move like this, Bitcoin doesn't just drift upward, it launches upward, okay? So Hank, what do these all mean together? What's the big takeaway? What is the big picture from these charts, right? Well, right now, price respected the true market mean. Net realized P&L printed a perfect capitulation, then a reversal pattern. Short-term holders flushed harder than they have in years, and this is exactly the type of cluster of signals you'd expect to see right before a violent move to the upside. Are the bulls totally safe right now? No. A reversal was due no matter what the chart said. But when multiple macro bottom indicators fire at the same time, it's not usually coincidence. So for now, the goal is actually pretty simple. Sustain the trend, we'll see higher lows, and no losing that 81.5 true market mean. So I think we might see some good news in the very not too distant future, so we might all be having an orange, green, and Merry Christmas after all. We still got about a month and change to go, but things are starting to look a little better, which is a nice way to start the week. All right, now it's time to see what's going on in other parts of the world with our Blockchain Without Borders segment, so let's roll the stinger and get into the stories, guys. All right, well, this first one's happening on the other side of the world in Japan because they might be about to go full boomer money meets Bitcoin. And honestly, I didn't have that on my 2025 bingo card. You see, several of Japan's largest asset managers are preparing to launch the country's first crypto-based investment trusts. That's right. The same conservative institutions that treat volatility like a haunted house are now asking, so where do we plug in the Bitcoin ETF? The shift comes as Japan's Financial Services Agency considers a major rule overhaul that would finally allow crypto inside regulated investment trusts, something banned under current law. Now, if these changes pass, crypto would be regulated under the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act instead of the Payment Services Act. The goal is to finalize the changes during the 2026 parliamentary session, which would also open the door for updates to the Investment Trust Act and eventually crypto investment products for retail and institutional investors. Now, SBI Global Asset Management is already polishing its shoes for the big dance. They say they want ETFs tied to Bitcoin and diversified crypto investment trusts, and they're aiming to manage roughly $32 billion within just 3 years. And Nomura? Well, they built internal crypto task forces before half the US even figured out how to pronounce Solana. Now, as regulators tighten security rules and push forward yen stablecoin experiments, Japan's strategy is starting to look like financial modernization, but let's make it orderly. The big picture here is that one of the world's most conservative financial markets is setting the table for crypto exposure at scale. And whenever new institutional money rolls in, Bitcoin tends to put on its nicest suit and ask if you've met its friend, number go up. And in Australia, the Senate turned into an angry group chat brought to life after far-right Senator Pauline Hanson walked into Parliament wearing a full burqa. Yes, Hanson wore the burqa after being denied permission to introduce a bill banning full face coverings in public. Now, the reaction inside the chamber was instant and loud. Senators from across the aisle erupted in outrage, calling the move racist, Islamophobic, and completely inappropriate for Parliament. Senators who are Muslims said Hanson's behavior was disgraceful, unconstitutional, and disrespectful. 3 words you never want to see stacked together next to your name unless you're auditioning for a villain role in a political drama. Now, this is not Hanson's first burqa stunt either. She famously wore one back in 2017 to argue for the exact same ban. The political context only added fuel to the fire. Hanson's One Nation party has doubled its Senate seats amid rising anti-immigration rhetoric. Leaders from both major parties condemn the move. Penny Wong, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, never one to mince words, told Hanson whatever our beliefs may be, her display was not worthy of a member of the Australian Senate, which is diplomatic phrasing for just knock it off. Now, Hanson later defended the stunt on Facebook, claiming she wore the burqa to protest the Senate refusing her bill, and if Parliament doesn't want her wearing one, it should ban the burqa, which is a little like saying, if you don't want me juggling flaming chainsaws in the living room, maybe don't let people own chainsaws. Now, the whole episode ultimately revealed more about the current cultural tensions in Australia than anything else, a country grappling with immigration politics, shifting demographics, and lawmakers who occasionally try to legislate in costumes for reasons that feel increasingly divorced from things like dignity, unity, or the concept of normal adult behavior. All right, we're taking a quick break here at the Blockchain Report, but when we're back, we got more stories, including our AIO segment, where we'll see what our robot overlords are up to next. So stay tuned, more Blockchain Report coming your way right after this quick message. All right, welcome back. It's time for some AIO. Let's see what people are doing with AI today and if it's fun or not, because this first one kind of is. President Trump spent last night posting AI-generated superhero cosplay of himself in what can only be described as a very online attempt to emotionally process the fact that even Republicans told him to tone it down after he said 6 Democratic lawmakers should face punishment punishable by death. The whole drama started when 6 Democrats released a video urging military and intelligence personnel to refuse unlawful orders, a pretty standard don't break the Constitution message, but Trump reacted as if they'd set the White House lawn on fire. He called it seditious behavior, reshared a post calling for the lawmakers to be hung, and then spent the next 48 hours feeling the political heat from his own side. So how did Trump calm himself through all this? Well, by reposting AI videos portraying those 6 lawmakers behind bars as if turning them into CGI prisoners somehow retroactively makes his threats reasonable. Look at that. That's fun. I love all these big names learning how to use AI. You got Michael Saylor doing funny AI pictures of himself. You got Trump imprisoning his Democratic colleagues. Just great. Now, Trump went on a full AI art spree himself, reposting images of himself wearing an American flag cape, staring moodily across the city skyline, and standing in front of Capitol Hill with captions like, "Time to obliterate the deep state." One image even showed the words, "Do it, Q," on his suit. Subtlety clearly not being the target audience for the, or subtlety is clearly not the target audience for these posts. All the AI art came from a user named Spiritual Street Fighter, whose bio includes, "I believe in Q," and the QAnon slogan, "Where we go one, we go all," which once again is not exactly reassuring when the posts are being reshared by the commander-in-chief. Now, the White House clarified that the president wasn't literally calling for the execution of Democrats, which is the type of clarification no presidency should ever need to issue. But then again, here we are. Saudi Arabia, well, they're dropping $900 million on AI companies that want to build world models capable of generating full Hollywood films. Saudi's PIF-backed AI firm Humane is leading a monster investment round into Luma AI, the San Francisco-based startup behind flashy video gen tools like Dream Machine and Modify. Now, this new funding round is large. Their previous combined funding was around $70 million. Now they're getting 13 times that amount in one single shot. And that's not even the wild part. You see, Luma is getting access to Saudi mega data centers producing 2 gigawatts of compute, which is basically Hoover Dam, but for GPUs. Now, the plan is to use all this power to build next generation world models. These are AI systems that don't just generate images or video, they try to understand physical space, motion, storytelling logic, and memory. In theory, you could generate a 90-minute film with consistent visuals, coherent story beats, and no writer complaining about the notes. Hollywood is, well, conflicted. On the one hand, it's cutting-edge tech. On the other, it sounds like the plot of a dystopian film where the robots eat the craft services table. There are also heavy geopolitical questions at play. Saudi Arabia's human rights record still raises concerns, including the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But the current administration is aggressively pursuing tech partnerships, brushing aside objections with statements like, "Things happen," which is certainly one way to address international controversy. Now, Luma plans to open a Riyadh office in the Target in the 2027-2028 years for the full compute capacity. Meanwhile, creatives worry this money could supercharge tech that replaces their jobs. Saudi Arabia sees this as its chance to become an AI superpower. Hollywood sees this as an existential red carpet threat. And Luma sees this as, finally, enough GPUs. That's going to be an interesting one. And researchers have discovered the single dumbest way to break the world's most advanced AI systems. You read it, a poem. That's it. Billions spent on safety defeated by rhyming couplets. A team from Dex AI and Sapienza University found that if you take harmful prompts and wrap them in Shakespeare cosplay, the biggest AI models melt faster than a candle in a sauna. They converted 1,200 dangerous prompts into poems using another AI model, and suddenly even the most restricted questions, stuff like, "How do you make plutonium?" became, "Allow me to explain." Across 25 models, including Gemini 2.5 Pro, ChatGPT 5, Grok 4, and Cloud Sonnet 4.5, poetic jailbreaks performed up to 18 times better than normal pros. Handcrafted poems did even better, because apparently AI are huge suckers for artisanal content. In one example, a model saw a poem and immediately began explaining nuclear processes, which is exactly the kind of energy you want from a supposedly safe machine. The funniest part, smaller models like GPT-5 Nano didn't fall for it at all. The researchers think it's because small models don't understand metaphor, or translation, the dumb ones are too dumb to be dangerous. The smart ones are too smart to survive poetry. Now, researchers say this exposes a fundamental flaw in alignment. Current safety filters are great at spotting danger in normal language, but once you dress it up like a B- assignment from Creative Writing 101, they hand over classified instructions like it's open mic night. Bottom line is, if the next global security breach is caused by a sonnet, I'm officially done with technology. And researchers found that when people learn using an AI chatbot instead of regular web searches, they walk away more confident and actually knowing less. A study in the journal PNAS Nexus looked at over 10,000 people across 7 experiments. Participants were told to learn about a single topic. Some used an AI chatbot like ChatGPT. Others used good old-fashioned Google. Afterward, everyone had to write advice to a friend explaining what they learned. The AI group wrote shorter, more generic answers with fewer concrete facts. The search engine group wrote longer, more detailed explanations that showed a deeper understanding. Now, the pattern held even when both groups had access to the same info or when the researchers changed which tools they used. The problem is not that AI gives bad facts every time. The problem is that AI does most of the heavy lifting for you. It summarizes, organizes, and synthesizes on your behalf, which feels amazing in the moment and quietly robs you of the mental reps that create real knowledge. Other studies have found similar things. People who rely heavily on AI assistance can see critical thinking skills erode, memory get weaker, and grades slide if they lean on the tool instead of using it as a supplement. Humans learn best when they are forced to dig, compare sources, and build their own mental map. AI search flips that into a passive process where you consume answers instead of constructing them. Now, the takeaway is not never use AI. It is that if you want to actually learn something, you still need to wrestle with the material yourself. Otherwise, you end up in the worst of both worlds. High confidence, low knowledge, and a brain outsourcing its homework to a robot that does not have to take the test. All right, welcome back to the Blockchain Report. Now it's time for Scroll Patrol. This is the part of the story where we go through what is currently trending on X/Twitter right now. We'll talk about it and why it matters or not. Victor, I know you're going to be helping us out with that moving forward, so let's read us the first post of the day, and then we're going to chat about it.
Yeah, sounds good, Hank. Looks like President Trump is heading to Beijing next year. He accepted an invitation for the president there. Yeah. So and then.
Okay. Big news. I mean, we know China has been eyeing Taiwan for a while, and there's a lot going on with them in Japan. So hopefully, President Trump is over there and going to kind of calm the waters a little bit. We don't need another version of the Ukraine war that involves Japan and or China and Taiwan. So I'm hoping he's going to bring some additional stability to that part of the world. Is that what you're kind of thinking, Victor?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, he hasn't really proven himself with the Ukraine-Russia war yet, so.
You know, if he wanted to, he could fix it in 24 hours. Ask anybody; they all say so. But we're waiting for it, and we're hoping for a resolution soon. Because we're all over this one. We're all over this one, and I don't even want to see this begin. So hopefully he works his powers over there and calms the seas a little bit. God willing. All right. What else we got on Scroll Patrol
here? Next here is also from RoxomTV. Bitcoin mining is gaining popularity again in China, despite being banned 4 years ago. And you used to do some mining, right, Hank?
I did used to do some mining. This is a big one. I mean, China kind of was very much against Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining for a long time, but it looks like the tides might be turning a little. And for the country, I don't know if they still have the most people in the world. It might be India now, but I know they're one of the top two. This is a big deal. That's a lot of people that can be mining. That's over 1 billion people that can also be investing in Bitcoin. So it's exciting that we're seeing the gates to Bitcoin being opened up in China because we know how their government works there, and it's whatever they say goes. So if they're going to say yes to Bitcoin, that pretty much allows the floodgates to open for the billions of people that are living in China currently. So this is a big deal. China is a very important player in the world. They're right along the United States as the most important global players out there. So it's exciting to see some favorable news coming from that part of the country, and hopefully President Donald Trump does more to give us more of this good stuff going forward as we enter the last month of the year. I'd like to end 2025 on a high note, I think. So I like.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Mm-hmm. I'm here for it. What else we got?
All right. Jack Dorsey apparently tweeted out Cybertruck is the best robot out there, and then Elon Musk retweeted with "Thanks, Jack."
Oh, I love having I love being privy to the conversations that billionaires have, right? I mean, Elon has been out and said when they made the Cybertruck, his goal was, I think I've heard him say, was to make it the coolest thing that you'd ever own. And I know it's just a car, but it has so many interesting programmable features. And I don't know if you're aware of this, Victor. You can actually program, there are dances that your car can do if you have like a Cybertruck or like a Tesla Model 3. It'll the doors will open, its lights will flash, and it'll do like choreographed dances to music. Does anyone really need that with their car? Absolutely not. But is it fun? Yes. So I'm here for it. Jack, you've got more important things, though. He's helping spread Bitcoin to the whole world through Cash App. What do you think about the Cybertruck?
I'm not the biggest fan of the Cybertrucks, honestly. I don't know. I think they're too bulky, and I don't like it. If it was up to me, I'd just get a regular Tesla.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a shiny coffin driving around the streets a little bit. I mean, it's very identifiable, though. You see a Cybertruck on the street, you can't unsee it. It sticks out like a sore thumb, so maybe that's part of the whole point. But it does look like a secondhand refrigerator or like a coffin from the future. Don't know if I want to be driving around in something that looks like a coffin, but they're cool,
right.
I guess.
This is the last one, Hank.
Right.
This is Melania Trump apparently inspecting the White House Christmas tree.
Oh, wow. Okay. The First Lady doing one of her new duties, which is, I guess, make sure that the Christmas tree was made here in America. We can't have any Christmas trees from outside the country taking American Christmas tree jobs. We can't, because it'd be funny, they find out this Christmas tree is from Canada, then ICE takes it or something and brings it to Toronto. Melania, she's doing her due diligences. I always wonder how they get these big trees into houses like that. I used to have a friend growing up that I didn't really realize how wealthy he was until much later, but they had a Christmas tree that went up 4 stories of their house. And they'd have to get like a big truck and like skirt it under there. I don't even know how they got it up, but I imagine it's something like that. Important business there for the First Lady. I really don't know what Melania does. I remember the old First Ladies, like, Obama, Michelle was like doing humanitarian efforts and stuff, but she's inspecting the Christmas trees and making sure they're American safe. So, God willing.
It's kind of a surprise now every time we see her now. I feel like, oh, Melania, I forgot about her. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, she's, I think, really kind of purposely distanced herself. I'll be curious to see how long that marriage lasts after this most recent term from Trump is over.
I mean, I don't know. I had the same thoughts, but I mean, she was with him even after the first, run that he had. So like the first, 4 years, and she stuck by him. So.
Well, she might end up being the first mother of the country, too, if Barron has anything about it. He's the one I think you got to watch out for. I think that guy's got some clever ideas. He's young, he's in tune, he's got power at his fingertips. He's super tall. He's like 6'7" or something. Barron's the one we got to watch out for. I think he might be the smartest of all the Trumps, so we'll see how that all plays out. She might be the first mother soon enough. But, all right, what should we do? We going to take a quick break?
Yep, let's go to break.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we're back, we're going to wrap today's show up with a little bullish, bearish, or BS and see how the overall market sentiment is looking. So stay tuned. We'll be right back to wrap up today's show right after this quick break. Wish you could grab cash without selling your Bitcoin? Yeah, same. But hey, that's why Ledden exists. They're the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. We're talking over $9 billion issued since 2018 with a perfect record protecting client assets. Now you might be asking, Hank, what makes a Ledden loan different? Well, guys, with custody loans, your collateral, it stays put. They don't go degen and lend it out for yield. There are no credit checks. It funds in under 6 hours, no monthly payments. You can repay anytime with 0 penalties. And for transparency, grown-ups actually want proof of reserves reports every 6 months verified by a top accounting firm. The bottom line is Ledden lets Bitcoin holders unlock liquidity without selling. And you can check them out over at ledden.io/RoxomTV. That's LEDN.io/RoxomTV. All right, boys and girls, it is that time of our show where we got to wrap things up with a little bullish, bearish, or BS. This is where we recount and recap our top stories today and see how the overall market sentiment is looking as a result. So let's get into it with our first one. As Trump is teasing big progress in the peace negotiations, even as Russia carried out a deadly drone strike on Kharkiv the same night. Officials say the plan is nowhere near done and that the proposed terms demand major concessions from the Ukraine, sparking backlash across both parties in D.C. You see, everyone wants peace, but nothing about this feels stable, agreed upon, or remotely close. I am going to call bearish on this one. From a state of the world perspective, this is a reminder that the war hasn't slowed down and any progress is fragile at best. A peace plan that requires Ukraine to give up land while missiles are still flying is not exactly an uplifting global story. If anything, it underscores how tense and unresolved this whole conflict really is. So I'm feeling bearish on it. Peace doesn't look peaceful just yet. Next up, we got the Office of Personnel Management confirmed that the Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency no longer exists. It dissolved 8 months early after internal chaos, massive layoffs, and unclear accounting, and a Trump-Musk feud that played out like a political WWE storyline. It was kind of fun, though. But no one can say what Doge actually accomplished, but everyone agrees it vanished in a fog of confusion. Ooh, I'm going to call BS on this one, okay? This doesn't exactly help the world, but it doesn't exactly hurt it either. It's political noise designed for headlines, not for humanity. No major outcomes, no global implications, nothing that changes life for everyday people. It's the definition of a story that's interesting, messy, but ultimately meaningless. So, entertaining chaos, yes. Zero world impact, also yes. And our last one, right now we're one bearish, one BS, one to go. Mission Barnes successfully created real pork fat in a bioreactor using a tiny biopsy from a live pig named Dawn, who is very much alive and not on a breakfast sandwich. The FDA has it approved. Early reviews say it tastes great, and chefs can now make ethical bacon without industrial slaughter. It's early, it's expensive, and it's weird, but it's undeniably forward-looking. Ooh, I'm going to call bullish on this, I guess. This is the kind of innovation that genuinely makes the world better. I mean, less cruelty, less environmental damage, and more sustainable food systems. It's rare that a tech story checks the ethical and practical boxes at the same time, and tasty for that matter. But if we can make bacon without death or climate guilt, that's a win for literally everyone except factory farms. So, ethical bacon is a very good sign for civilization, even if it doesn't taste quite like bacon just yet, but hopefully they'll get there. So today's final sentiment is a mixed bag. We got one bearish geopolitical mess, one meaningless BS political sideshow, and one genuinely uplifting breakthrough in food science. So today feels like one of those days where the world is still chaotic, still tense, but also capable of doing something legitimately positive and humane. It's not a full-on victory lap day, but sentiment is leaning bullish today, thanks to the one story that actually improves life on Earth for us and Babe and all of his friends. Charlotte and her friends, too. So, that is a wrap for today's Monday episode of the Blockchain Report, boys and girls. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to RoxomTV, RoxomTV News, and me over at Hank at RoxomTV on all platforms you choose to do your doom scrolling on. And remember, we'll be back tomorrow, but we're on at our normal time of 8 a.m. Pacific time to 10 a.m. Pacific time. Only on Mondays are we on from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific. Well, gang, it's been a blast. As always, thank you so much for joining us. And until tomorrow's show, please, please, please stay safe, stay informed, and always make sure to huddle on. I'll see you tomorrow.